the high desert of Yemen's interior, where the mountains of the Sarawat descend into arid plains and seasonal wadis cut through stone and sand, the remnants of a structure still hold firm against the earth. These are the ruins of the Marib Dam, once a monumental achievement of hydraulic engineering, built not by imperial decree from the Mediterranean world, but by the Sabaeans, a South Arabian people whose kingdom flourished for centuries in one of the most inhospitable climates on Earth. The dam held back seasonal floodwaters, captured the monsoon rains, and redirected them through an intricate network of canals and sluices to irrigate the land surrounding Marib, the Sabaean capital. For nearly 1,000 years, it sustained the agriculture, trade, and social order of a kingdom that controlled the lucrative incense routes between the Arabian interior and the Red Sea. The structure itself was not large by modern standards, roughly 2,000 feet long and 35 feet high, but its design was refined through generations. The Sabaeans, who began construction in the late 2nd millennium BC, understood their environment with a precision earned by necessity. The dam captured the seasonal flow of the Wadi Adhana, a watercourse that only flowed during periods of heavy rain. When the rains came, the dam spread the water into 2 main canals, one north, one south, which fed into carefully graded irrigation basins that turned the Marib plain into an agricultural heartland. Grain, dates, and fruit trees were cultivated in quantities sufficient to support a population far larger than would otherwise be possible in the region. Inscriptions left on stone steles speak of repairs, improvements, and the names of kings who undertook them. The dam was not static, it was monitored, adjusted, and fortified repeatedly. The people who relied on it understood its value not only in practical terms, but as a symbol of continuity. For centuries, the structure stood not just as an engineering marvel, but as a centerpiece of a society that derived its legitimacy in part from its control over water. The Sabaean kings styled themselves as guardians of order in a land that would, without intervention, return to dust. But no structure is immune to time. By the late 1st millennium AD, pressures, both natural and human, began to mount. Earthquakes recorded elsewhere in the Arabian Peninsula during this period may have weakened the dam's structure. Political fragmentation within South Arabia undermined the central authority needed to maintain large-scale infrastructure. The rise of rival kingdoms, including the Himyarites to the west, shifted the balance of power and trade. When exactly the dam failed remains uncertain, but most sources place the final catastrophic collapse around the middle of the 6th century AD. Arabic traditions, recorded centuries later, link the dam's failure to a mass migration. The Quran references a people of Sheba, whose gardens were swept away by a great flood sent as punishment for ingratitude. Other historical texts speak of tribes displaced by the collapse, moving northward into the Levant and Western Arabia. While the historical accuracy of such accounts cannot be verified in detail, the broader pattern fits with archaeological and environmental evidence. The collapse of the Marib Dam corresponded with the dispersal of South Arabian populations and the decline of urban centres in the interior. The consequences were not simply agricultural. The economy that had developed around the incense trade, myrrh and frankincense carried by caravan through the mountains to Mediterranean ports, was already declining under pressure from new maritime routes. But the loss of Marib's agricultural base accelerated the process. The city, once one of the most prosperous in Arabia, gradually emptied. Its temples fell into disuse. The canal system silted and cracked. The inscriptions ceased. By the time Islam emerged in the 7th century, the region around Marib had already become peripheral. The dam, though still visible and partly standing, was no longer functional. Later dynasties would attempt minor repairs, and in the modern era, a new dam was built nearby, bearing the same name but with vastly different methods. Yet the original structure remains as a ruin, not only of stone, but of a system that had bound together engineering, agriculture, governance, and ritual into a singular structure of meaning. The Marib Dam's collapse is remembered today less for its technical failure than for its symbolic weight. It stands in historical memory not just as the loss of infrastructure, but as the end of an order, an event that blurred into legend, absorbed into stories of exile and divine retribution. And in the stones that remain, shaped by tools no longer in use, lies the trace of a world that once held the desert at bay,